This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
Some post-practice news, it's official. Training camp is over, first of all. Just take a second. Let's mourn training camp. All right, but this is it, right? After this preseason game, that's it for training camp. Now, I'm old enough to remember when the cut downs used to be progressive throughout the preseason. When I say that, I mean there used to be cuts in mandatory cut downs, 75, I believe, after the second preseason game. And then the third preseason game, there was another cut down, and then there was the final cut down, right? So there was these waves. Now you get to have everybody throughout camp, and then you get to cut everybody all at one time, which I guess is better because you get a couple extra weeks of pay if you're somebody who's not going to make the roster. So that's what we do now. The 53 cuts are coming soon. It is an interesting day for some, a horrible day for some, one of the best days of their lives, right? It is a day indeed, but enough of that. The Browns training camp's over. 53-man rosters are coming close here. What do we know about this final preseason game for the Cleveland Browns? What's their approach? Who's going to play? Who's not going to play? Well, here's what we know so far. Kevin Stefanski has stated that the starters are going to play for 20 to 25 plays on Saturday, but that could vary based on the game flow and individual needs. Now, if you're interested in watching this game, I will be live during it. So if you want somebody to watch the game with, make sure you subscribe, notified here. Saturday, 1 o'clock, I will be locked into this game. Another thing to know, 20 to 25 plays for the starters. I know some people are going to say, oh, that's just a couple drives. That's like a quarter and some change, right? If you think about it, throughout the course of an NFL game, a team on offense averages around 66 plays. The Browns in 2023, when they ran a similar offense, averaged about 69 plays a game. So 20 to 25, we're talking about at most about 36% of the game going to the starters. Now, not every starter is going to play, but I do think the principal starters will certainly play. I think you're going to get the starting offensive line. I think we're going to see Jerry Jeudy out there for at least a drive. Cedric Tillman's going to be out there, right? We'll see if Jamari Thrash gets run with the ones. David Njoku will probably be out there. Same thing with Harold Fainin. Defensively, I would imagine we see everybody but Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, who never have to play in the preseason. Now, if they want to play Myles in the preseason, if Myles wants to play in the preseason, I'm still going to tell him no. But if that's something they want to do, maybe they do that. But I really would not anticipate Myles Garrett playing in the preseason. I think I was talking to Ace about this because the Bengals are playing Joe Burrow in the preseason. And I get it. You want to make sure you go out there with your guys, but there are just some players who you just can't risk injury to in the preseason. And Myles Garrett's one of those players, right? He does not ever have to play in the preseason. If he wants to play that last game in the regular season and people argue it's meaningless, whatever, man. That's a regular season game. I'm not going to stop somebody from playing in a regular season game. But preseason, there's no business Myles has out there. What's Myles going to prove out there other than he's really good at football? We know that. We know Myles is really good at football. And there's nothing really Myles has to get up to speed on. He's been dominant in first games multiple times in his career. I'm not worried about that guy. That guy does not need to play in the preseason. But you are going to see the starters about a quarter and a half. If you're wondering who else is going to be playing at quarterback, it is confirmed that it will be Dylan Gabriel backing up Joe Flacco and then Shedeur Sanders after that. This really is not a surprise to anybody who's been paying attention to the Cleveland Browns for a long period of time, that this was what was going to be happening. The real question is, who's going to be the backup week 1? Will it be Dylan Gabriel? Will it be Kenny Pickett? I don't really see a world where it's Kenny Pickett week 1, if I'm being honest with you, because he's not healthy right now to play in the preseason. It seems like this hamstring is bothering him. He hasn't practiced in 3 weeks for more than a day. So how's he going to be the backup? You know what I mean? Maybe they're bullish on him and they're just going to throw him in there as the backup. But I just find it hard to believe that he's going to be able to perform a suitable backup or be a backup at the level of maybe even Dylan by the time we get to week 1. Maybe things change, but I doubt it. I don't think he's going to be the backup. I think it is going to be Dylan Gabriel. And I think the second they drafted Dylan Gabriel, they thought, hey, he was probably going to be the backup to whoever lost this quarterback competition, because that's kind of what they drafted Dylan Gabriel to be. Now, some people are going to look at this and go, oh my God, Shador's number 3 on the depth chart. The Browns don't care about him. I would urge you to use a little bit more creativity than that, because the way the Browns will look at that room, and the way I think they'll look at that room at least, is this. And I know some people get mad when I say this because they think that Shador should be starting or he should be a franchise quarterback or whatever. But like, I live in reality, and right now Shador's a 5th-round pick. He's not a franchise quarterback yet. If he becomes one, then we can have a different conversation. But the reality is that Shador is not a franchise quarterback. Shador is a 5th-round pick. Shador is going to be a developmental prospect for this team for the bulk of this season. That also does not mean that Shador is not going to play this year, right? But he is going to be developed during the course of the year, which means he's probably not going to be active on game day. He'll probably be the emergency quarterback. So, there's going to be some weeks where he doesn't dress. That's not something to panic about. He's not going to get cut soon or anything like that. They're looking at him as somebody they see a lot of potential in, but want to develop before they throw out there. They look at Dylan Gabriel as somebody who's more ready to play. And based on what we saw in the preseason, I think that's pretty fair. Shador looks like he's going to be the better quarterback over a 5-year period. I have no doubt about that, right? That Shador has a chance to be a much better quarterback in the next 5 years than Dylan Gabriel. But if you're asking me if I needed to play a quarterback tomorrow in an NFL game, I think the answer is Dylan for me, and I think the answer is Dylan for the Browns, because he seems to be more ready to handle more of a NFL playbook than Shador is. That's not a slight to Shador. That's not a slight to his potential. That's just where you are right now. Dylan's played 5 seasons of FBS football. Shador's only played 2. He's more prepared for this moment. He was drafted because he's more prepared, and he's 2 years older than Shador Sanders. That's just where it is. It's not a statement on what you think about these players once they fully develop in the next 5 years, because I think Dylan's not going to grow much more from where he is right now, which is probably a backup. And Shador has the potential, in my mind, to become a starter. How good of a starter? Time will tell that. But I do think if you develop him correctly, give him the right amount of time, he could become a starter. It's just now is not the time for him to be the starter, and that's okay. He wouldn't be the first quarterback in his career to not start week 1 and be fine. Hell, he wouldn't be the first quarterback in his career to not start the first 8 games and be fine, right? Everybody keeps comparing him to Tom Brady, right? The Shador faithful. They always compare him to Tom Brady because he wears 12. Tom Brady's his friend. Well, Tom Brady played in 1 game his rookie year. 1 game his rookie year. Tom Brady, 1 game his rookie year. Just because it don't happen this year, just because it doesn't happen in the first 5 games of this year, doesn't mean that he's not going to get an opportunity to prove himself. And who knows? It might be a blessing in disguise, because as much as everybody wants him to be ready right now, what if he's not? And he goes out there before he's ready and then loses the confidence of the coaching staff, loses the confidence of the team, loses the confidence of other GMs around the league, and kind of gets forgotten about because of all of that. And then people go, oh, Shador, he has too much of a burden and he's not good. Like, understand, the second Shador gives people real reason to believe he stinks, people are going to be out on him in record speed, which means if you're the Browns, if you're Shador, if he goes out there, you need to be sure he's ready to be out there. So take your time with it. Let's be patient with it. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of patience, right? We forgot, but food tastes better in the oven, y'all. You know what I mean? We be microwaving everything, but food tastes a little bit better in the oven. That's all I got to say on that. But Shador's probably going to play, I would say, the late 3rd, for the rest of the game. Dylan's going to play from the mid-second quarter to the rest of the game, and then the starters are going to start and play to the mid-second quarter. So that's what the alignment is. That's what the quarterback order is. Seems like they're not really prioritizing getting Tyler Huntley snaps. Not a surprise. Tyler Huntley's literally a camp arm at this point here. But that's what's going on with the quarterback situation, who's starting, who's not. Another piece of information I thought was interesting is that Isaiah Bond is going to play in the preseason finale, which is a bit surprising. He just joined the team a couple days ago after just like kind of dealing with the entire legal situation. So we'll see how much Isaiah does. I think seeing how fast they implement Isaiah Bond into this offense will give you an answer on how long it's going to take Quincy Junkins after he deals with his legal situation and potential suspension to be acclimated into the Browns offense. So we'll get a little bit of insight there. If you're wondering who did not practice today, it was Denzel Ward, shoulder. He's day-to-day. We know that. We've talked about that the last 2 days. Cedric Tillman did not participate in practice today with a thumb injury. Be interested to see if he plays. He played last week. Winston Reed out with the back injury. Cornelius Lucas with the ankle injury. Mahmoud Diabite, he was back in individuals, but did not practice in team drills. Lamaron James, concussion protocol, was back at practice. And Keyshawn Johnson also returned after leaving yesterday's session, but didn't do anything of note. So we're kind of updated here with the Browns' whole preseason game situation. And now that we know just how much the starters are going to be playing, what the order of the quarterback room is going to be, what they're expecting, we can kind of start the process on doing a bit of a post-mortem on the Browns training camp and their mentality throughout training camp. And if I'm just comparing this to what the mentality was last year, I am so thrilled with what they've done in training camp. Now, overall, there are some things that you want to see more. Obviously, we would have loved to see Kenny Pickett. But if I'm just grading the Browns on how I feel like they've went through camp this year versus other years, I think Kevin has made a great improvement to the structure of camp. And I hope these are improvements that aren't simply just reactionary to what happened last year, and that these improvements are here to stay, because I think what we have seen here is the Browns look like a better, more well-coached football team even throughout practice, training camp, than they have coming out of camp before, because of this new philosophy, right? Even in years where the Browns have had winning seasons, right? 2020, where they won 11 games, and in 2023, where I think they had one of the more impressive 11-win seasons you can have, winning 11 games with 4 different quarterbacks. Kevin won Coach of the Year for both of those. But training camp was pretty mid for both those teams, right? We kind of went into the season not really knowing what this team's going to look like, some good things, some bad things. It wasn't like an outwardly bad training camp, but it was pretty mid. The same thing happened in 2023, where it's like, all right, well, we're not really seeing much, but it feels like the team's going to be good just based on the roster alone. Obviously, they had a disaster of a camp in 2024. That rolled into a bad season. But I like this approach. I like the more physical approach. It feels like we're actually preparing this team to play football. It's amazing, right? Now, I'm not play your starters in the preseason every week guy. I think you probably got to get them in about 25 plays during the preseason at some point, but I don't think you should play them all the time. I think that could be a bit counterproductive, but be as physical as you can be in the lead up to this, right? You got to practice tackling. You got to practice physicality in order to practice football. And that's what's been so much better. 2 joint practices, right? Tackle to the ground sessions in practice, padded practices with high frequency. This felt like a real training camp, and I think you saw that pay off when they went to Philadelphia and didn't get beat up like they got beat up the last 3 times that they've gone to Philadelphia for a joint practice. You're seeing this and how this team is stepping up to a challenge in something as meaningless as a preseason game. This team looks more physical. This team looks more ready to accept the challenge. This team straight up looks like internally they're much more competitive than they were last year. And I'm not saying competitive as in like, oh, this is a competitive 10-win team. I'm saying competitive as in they are competing, and you can see the will, the desire to compete when you watch them play. It doesn't look like nobody cares in that locker room about winning the preseason game or winning the rep or winning the practice. It looks like they give a damn. They care about the Cleveland Browns. They care about being Cleveland Browns, and they care about winning football games for the Cleveland Browns. It's a much better sign than last year, where it just felt like everybody was a little lackadaisical and throw your shoulders up. We'll see what happens this year type shit, right? That's not where they are. They are in a much better place. I am thankful that they're in that much better place. We'll see if it turns into regular season results, but I'm pleased with this. I want this approach every camp now. Now that they've shown that they're capable of doing it, now that they've demonstrated that this isn't going to start a rash of injuries simply because you dare to be physical during the football practice, I expect it now. This is the new bar. This is what I want training camp at the very minimum to feel like for the rest of Kevin Stefanski's run. This is good. I like this. This is what I want. Y'all let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Everybody have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.